Happy New Year. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. This is just a quick video to do some book recommendations. I've been doing a ton of reading lately. I always equate Christmas vacation or time off at Christmas to do a lot of reading with some Chex Mix. Like, that is my go-to. So here are some of the books I've been reading lately. I currently am reading this by Darcy Littlebadger. I know I'm going to butcher the title. I think it's Shanae Lende, I think. Anyways, so I read this is a prequel to Elatsoi, and I read that one first. This author was at the book festival that we were at earlier in the year. I love these books. They're so different than anything else I've ever read. I guess it would be considered a YA, but an adult could definitely read these and enjoy them as well. The genre would be fantasy. It's a different fantasy than I've ever read, though. The author is a Lipan Apache, so it's all tied back to her, I think, kind of ancestry, like stories. The main character can bring back dead animals, and she has like a dog that she loved forever, and the dog is with her all the time. It came back after it died. Like, who doesn't want their dog to still be there after they died? I liked in both books, they make it seem like the loved ones that you've lost are always with you. So I liked that point of it. I'm not all the way done with this one yet. Like I said, it is a fantasy, but it's a different fantasy because they have like these powers, and it's widely known that people have powers. There are fairy rings, which is how they transport to different places. And actually one of the biggest problems in this book is the fairy ring, transporting to where you don't want to go. So, but it's also like they have vampires, and they have college for like vampires and just different vocations like that like aren't in a normal setting. So mostly it seems like whenever I have read fantasy that had like fairies or people with powers or, you know, vampires or like that they try to hide it. And in here it's like widely known. I highly recommend this book and Elatsoi, especially if you like fantasy. My next book is Sandwich. I just read this within the last week. She also was at the book festival that I went to this summer. She was just super funny. I checked this out of the library. I mean, I read it in like a day. It was a quick, fun read. It touched on some serious subjects, but its main subject, I think, is how women feel during menopause and the different emotions they're experiencing. It takes place in the South on a summer vacation at this cottage where this woman has always went with her family, and it's just a really nice, poignant view of midlife. I highly recommend this if you like family drama or are a middle-aged woman. So I know I've talked about Rainbow Rowell before. I did review her book Eleanor and Park, and that was one of the really good reads I read this year. It has a vintage 80s vibe, so if you grew up in the 80s, you'll like this. It's a teen romance that's just very sweet. And then I read this one by Rainbow Rowell, Slow Dance, and I'm getting a theme from her books. It seems like she kind of sticks to the, I don't want to say teenage romance, but the characters in here are in their 30s, I think, and they had a teenage romance but never like moved forward with it. So they meet up at a class reunion. It's a good, fun, I don't want to say fluffy read because there are some like harder parts in here, but for the most part I would consider it a good, fun read. My favorite book that I read this year, actually I just read it last week, was Werewolves Don't Die. I love this book. It is, I think, considered a YA novel. This person actually was at the book festival as well. I probably wouldn't have picked this up otherwise. It deals again with Indians and their heritage, and it talks about the schools that the Catholics run, the schools that were run in Canada, where they would come get the Indian children and take them away, and a lot of them died there. So there are various serious matters in this book, but nothing that a tween couldn't read, and an adult would love these. If you like to be outside, they do a lot of trapping and a lot of lore about the outdoors, which I loved. This book is a lot of connection to family, and the grandfather was so knowledgeable, and the grandson really forged a relationship with him that will take him through the rest of his life. And again, the book stresses that our loved ones aren't gone after they're dead. They're still with us in our hearts and our minds. So I really liked that part too. This is like so good. I highly recommend this. 5 stars on this one. What I'm currently reading, I just showed you Shiane Lende, but I'm also reading a nonfiction, How to Keep House While Drowning. I'm finding this really good. It's written by a therapist about basically daily chores that you do for yourself around the house, like laundry and cleaning. But it also, she talks about like being gentle with yourself and doing nice things for your future self by setting yourself up for less work tomorrow, like maybe picking out your clothes for tomorrow for work, or getting ingredients out for dinner, like being nice to your future self and looking at it that way instead of like, oh, I have to get my clothes out for work. So I'm really enjoying this. I'm not all the way done with it yet, but I'll probably give this 5 stars. It's pretty good. And of course, I always have more on my list to read. So I've had a lot of people recommend the inheritance games. So I got this one. I'm gonna try and start this soon. And this is again a YA book, but I think a lot of the YA books are really fun reads. They're fast, and sometimes I feel like their content is just as good or better than some of the adult novels. I also have, again, Rainbow Rowell, and this is called Attachments. This looked really good. I'll just read you the summary. It says, Beth Fremont and Jennifer Scribner Snyder know that somebody is monitoring their work email. Everybody in the newsroom knows it's company policy, but they can't quite bring themselves to take it seriously. They go on sending each other endless and endlessly hilarious emails discussing every aspect of their private lives. Meanwhile, Lincoln O'Neill can't believe that his job now is reading other people's emails. When he applied to be the internet security officer, he pictured himself building firewalls and crushing hackers, not writing up a report every time a sports reporter forwards a dirty joke. When Lincoln comes across Beth and Jennifer's messages, he knows he should turn them in, but he can't help but be entertained and captivated by their stories. By the time Lincoln realizes he's falling for Beth, it's way too late to introduce himself. What would he say? So this sounds really good for anybody that works in an office, because we all know that stuff goes on, and it just looks like a fun laugh out loud read, I think. The other book on my list is Symphony of Secrets. I read his other book that he had. I think it was called The Violin Conspiracy. That was amazing. I'd give that 5 stars. So I'm super anxious to start this one. But yeah, Brendan Slocum, I really, really like him.